Not judging is not only dangerous, it's actually impossible. Actions require judgment.
The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
When the static of life fills your brain and the world seems a little too insane, just twist that dial, don't hesitate. There's a haven where good vibes await. Tune in and Take 12 for some joy and cheer. It's the sound of hope coming in crystal clear. Recovery talk, the music so grand, a beacon of light, a helping hand.
Well, greetings, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show with our co-host from Huntington Beach, California, Roger McDermott. There he is. Of course, the Make-Believe Take 12 Recovery Orchestra is here, as always. We got some useless and mindless information for you this week that we know will make you a better person. And the topic? Well, I'll be the judge of that. We're going to talk about making judgment calls without being judgmental. Is it even possible? On this episode of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show.
Tune in and Take 12 for some joy and cheer. It's the sound of hope coming in crystal clear. Recovery talk, the music so grand, a beacon of light, a helping hand.
Wahoo! Indeed. Good day, Roger McDermott.
Wow.
You get me up this
Spit it
early,
out
I can't
there,
even talk.
Monty.
I can't even talk.
It is a good morning, even though you can't talk. Good to see you. Yeah.
I got up at 5:30.
Yeah.
And it's raining outside, so it means there is going to be no clouds in the sky. It's not cloudy rainy. It's that, it's like the sky is clear, but it's pouring rain. It's weird. But it makes for an absolute beautiful afternoon because everything's fresh. You know, that fresh thing that we experience after a nice rain. And got ready to put the show together, and I'm a little giddy today, not because of the topic, but it's just been an amazing week. It's been one of those weeks where I've just felt very close to the Lord. Some days you just don't, even though He's there, and then there's other days that you really do. Our worship pastor's son, going to his church and watching him lead worship, and the energy that the Holy Spirit was producing from the music that he was being obedient in leading the congregation in. I'm telling you, buddy, there's no greater feeling than to watch your kids succeed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Because my son is the youth director at our church, and to watch him and his wife and my granddaughter serve the youth is, I can't even put it into words. How proud, how blessed, how he's amazing, and I take no credit.
That's great. Yeah. It's and he's quick. Whenever I compliment him, though, he's quick to say, "Dad, you give God the glory and you compliment him." And I go, "Yes, Colin."
Yeah.
All right, so the lineup for this week, listeners, just so you know, we got today's show, of course, and then on Wednesdays, the Came to Believe Recovery podcast. Alicia Martinez will be with me. Tom will be gone this week. Alicia and I will be talking about forgiveness. And is it even possible to truly forgive? How do you forgive? What about when you feel like you can't? All that kind of stuff. We're going to be talking about forgiveness. And then on Friday's show, Walking Through the Language of the Heart, Chris S. and myself, Roger, are going to be Landing the Plane. We've got 2 short articles, and we will be done with the book, The Language of the Heart. We've been working on this thing for over 2 years now. Man, what a workshop. We will land on episode 100.
Wow.
So we're excited about that. And then Chris and I are going to take a couple of months off from that particular broadcast, working with him. I'll be producing something else on Friday, which I'll let you guys know soon. And then he's going to come back, and we're going to tackle a book called Our Great Responsibility. And we're going to bring in past delegates from Alcoholics Anonymous. This book, Our Great Responsibility, is a selection of Bill Wilson's General Service Conference talks from 1951 to 1970. Just amazing stuff. I mean, I absolutely love learning about the history of this marvelous fellowship.
Amen to that. Me too. Yeah, you bet.
So if you're a service junkie out there, let me tell you, you really ought to get the book, Our Great Responsibility. You really should. It's amazing, and it's an easy read. It's not too big. And tune into the shows when we get ready to do that. But we'll let you know when that's going to happen. Let's see here. I want everybody to take a visit to 3 Legacies Recovery Recordings. That's Paul H., and his guests over there. Paul's doing a marvelous job. He is our newest member of our Recovery Podcast Network team. Visit our website at take12radio.com and click on the Recovery Podcast Network banner, and you'll find Paul's shows. He's got some great 12-step speakers and interviews that you really don't want to miss. He just does a phenomenal job. So good on you, Paul. So there's that there. All right. I want to make sure that I give Cecil kudos here, and not sure exactly how he's going to introduce the next segment, but I know he's going to. So, Cecil, go ahead, do your thing. Big bada boom.
Well, thank you very much, Your Highness, Your Royal Highness. You're just a highness, you know what I mean, Monty Man? You're just a highness.
Okay.
Well, anyway, it's that time, you know, for some useless and mindless information.
All right. Somebody needs to Google highness. I mean, you know, I'm sure if there's a royal highness, there's got to be highnesses that aren't royal, right?
I'm guessing, yes, your lowness.
Oh my gosh. You just never know what Cecil's going to come up with. Okay, today is World Sword Swallowers Day.
Wow. Okay.
So for all those sword, I always had a problem spelling that word. You know, because
sword?
Sword. World Sword Swallowers Day. And when these guys do this, and every once in a while you'll see it like on America's Got Talent or something like that, they'll come out with these guys. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies, man.
I know.
I mean, oh, gee willikers. So anyway, so for all you sword swallowers out there, happy day to you. Okay, some useless and mindless information that is guaranteed to make you feel like a better person. This is a trip. In most advertisements of watches, the displayed time is 10:10. This allows for easy viewing of most logos as well as heightened sales due to its resemblance of a smile on a watch face. So I was like, really? So what did I do?
You got your watch.
I Googled it. I'm looking at watch ads, right? And the majority of them are at 10:10. Indeed.
Well, that's
there's
interesting.
a few that aren't. Yeah. Very, very weird.
And mindless.
Yeah, very mindless.
Yeah.
Most trailers, movie trailers, most movie trailers were originally shown at the end of movies, hence the name trailer, right? They were moved to the beginning because most of the audience left after the feature film. Makes sense? Yeah. There's number 2. Number 3, about 35% of people who use personal ads online. Oh, wow. Let me read this again. About 35% of people who use personal ads or online apps for dating are already married.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And alarming, actually.
That's a bit alarming.
Yes.
But, I guess I'm probably not surprised, to tell you the truth. The electric chair was invented by, have any guesses? The guy's profession that invented the electric
Edison.
chair? It was a dentist.
Oh, my word.
Think about that the next time you get your teeth cleaned.
I'm going tomorrow, so I'll tell my friend who's my dentist that story.
Are you really? Oh, my gosh. Yeah, don't be strapping me in there, buddy. Okay, and the last one. The inventor of Pringles was buried in a Pringles can.
Wow, really? I don't know if that's interesting or weird. I'm not sure what that is, Monty. What is that? Is that weird or interesting or both?
Well, I got to say, my mother-in-law, and this is not a mother-in-law joke, one of the sweetest ladies I've ever met in my life, she was buried with a pizza box. Her thing was pizza. When we went over there, it was always pizza. I got so sick of pizza. I'm still sick of pizza. It's got to be a really unique pizza for me to like it, right? But she said, I want to be buried in a pizza box. Well, we didn't bury her in one, but we did put I think it was a Pizza Hut pizza box, and everybody in the family signed it with a Sharpie pen, right? And then we put it in the plot next to her ashes where she was buried.
Wow.
Yep, there you go. So, I don't know. I'm sure we've got some weird stories like that,
That might be a future show, Monty. What do you wish to be buried in?
What do you wish to be buried in? Oh my gosh. Yes. Listeners, send in an email. I want to know. Come on now.
Yeah.
Take 12 radio. That's TAKE, the number 12, radio at Comcast.net. What do you want to be buried in if you had your way?
Yeah.
If you had your way. And so this is not useless and mindless information, actually. This is very useful information. If you ever feel kind of like the recovery thing, going to meetings, maybe even working with people, service work, it just gets a little dry and you're feeling like you're kind of stuck in it and I don't know, I'm just a little tired of meetings. Well, if you're feeling like you're stuck in your recovery, I got a really great book for you to help you get unstuck, listeners. It's called 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety. You know I was going to say it. I say it almost every week. By our good friend and Take 12 Recovery Radio contributor, Dr. Alan Berger. Visit his website at abphd.com. This is an amazing book about how to be emotionally sober, what Bill Wilson called the next frontier. And Dr. Alan Berger is really the emotional sober guru, in my opinion. So check out his book, abphd.com. All right, that is not useless and mindless. The rest of it was. And we'll be back right after this to talk about, I'll be the judge of that. Can you make judgment calls and not be judgmental? We'll see. So don't go away. Your Royal Highness wants you to come back.
I'll be the judge of that.
I'll be the judge of that. Hey, come on and have some fun with me. I'm the Monty Man, and I am the co-host of Walking Through the Language of the Heart, a workshop that we are currently broadcasting here at Take 12 Recovery Radio, which includes AA co-founder Bill W.'s writings in the Grapevine from 1944 to 1970. Walking Through the Language of the Heart with myself and Chris S. is broadcasting and posted every Friday until we're completely done with this wonderful book. Simply visit us at take12radio.com, click on the Recovery Workshops banner, and there you'll find Walking Through the Language of the Heart, as well as other recovery workshops that we've produced here for you for free at Take 12 Recovery Radio. Visit us once again, take12radio.com, scroll down to the Recovery Workshops banner, click it, and you'll be well on your way. I see a tumbleweed coming down the street and a man on a horse. Welcome back to the show. You've tuned into the world's oldest and original recovery talk and recovery music radio show and podcast, the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show, with co-host Roger McDermott and myself, the Monty Man. Yes, there you are. Listen, if you're listening on an audio format, that's great, and I know most people do. But check out our YouTube version once in a while. You can see our smiling faces. Roger, smile. There he is. Yes, yeah. And you get some special effects here and there, and some little doohickeys, like that cloud, that blue cloud behind me right now. Watch this. It's going to go away. Ready? See? Ooh. Special effects. Wait. Okay. I'll be the judge of that. Is a statement I remember my dad saying when I would make an argument with him about something. And he'd say, well, bottom line is I'll be the final judge. Okay, Dad. But that's kind of tongue-in-cheek here, but can we make judgment calls without being judgmental? Is something I was thinking about last week. So I want to talk about it. So I want to play this sound clip. And I want to introduce you to this guy so you don't think I'm just pulling the name out of my hat or something like that. And why he's qualified to even say this. This is the host of the whyminutes.com. You really ought to check it out. This is Nick Freitas. Nick Freitas enlisted in the United States Army after high school and served in the 82nd Airborne and 25th Infantry Division. After 9/11, he volunteered for U.S. Army Special Forces Green Beret and served 2 combat tours in Iraq. After leaving the military, Nick has worked as a subject matter expert and consultant on matters of national security to include counterterrorism, unconventional warfare, and counterinsurgency. In 2015, Nick was elected to the Virginia House of Delegates, where he serves on the Transportation and Science and Technology committees. Nick and his wife, Tina, live in Central Virginia with their 3 children. Wow. Pretty good bio there, I would say. And so when I read something like that about a person, I kind of been interested in what they have to say about some things. And this is what Nick says about being judgmental or making judgments. And we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Here's Nick.
We've all heard someone say it.
Don't judge me.
Don't judge me.
You shouldn't judge people.
And it's become a common theme in American culture and politics. You shouldn't judge. Politicians lecture us, the media lectures us, and protesters demand from us that we be tolerant and accepting. And a key component of this, we are told, is to stop being so judgmental. I mean, after all, didn't Jesus say, don't judge? And if anyone disagrees, this is what happens. But perhaps all of the judgments coming from the don't be so judgmental crowd are why more Americans than ever before are admitting that they feel an intense pressure to self-censor. In fact, according to recent polling, over 70% of conservatives and more than 60% of moderates admit that the political climate prevents them from saying things they believe because others might find them offensive. Of course, when presented with these statistics, the Don't Be Judgmental crowd simply replies with the following.
Racism is in the heart of the country.
Systemic.
So does this mean that 62% of Americans are really nothing more than intolerant bigots? Well, probably not. In fact, opinion polling shows that the United States is actually one of the most socially accepting countries on earth. And the irony of the Don't Be Judgmental crowd is that the United States isn't nearly as racist or sexist or as bigoted as they claim it is. What's more, and listen to this part closely, chastising someone for judging actually requires making a judgment in the first place. And the faulty logic of this line of thinking is actually deeper than most people realize. After all, when it comes to issues directly related to public safety, infrastructure, healthcare, etc., we are all pretty eager to be judgmental. And for good reason, because without sound judgment on these issues, the consequences become obvious in the form of higher crime, dangerous buildings and bridges, and botched surgeries. I mean, if your doctor cut off the wrong leg, you probably wouldn't be very satisfied with him telling you, hey man, shouldn't judge. In reality, using your judgment is an essential part of being a rational adult. Now, does that mean you should condemn someone for merely disagreeing with you or perhaps sharing a different perspective? No, of course not. But interestingly enough, that's exactly what has happened as people have traded good and sound judgment for another version that seems purely arbitrary. And as a result, people are becoming increasingly afraid to share their judgments on important issues that affect everyone, not out of fear of being judged, but of being silenced. And by the way, no, Jesus wasn't telling people not to judge. He was warning us about hypocrisy, arrogance, and the dangers of poor and improper judgment. And it's not hard to tell the difference. Just read Matthew 7. But here's the bottom line. Not judging is not only dangerous, it's actually impossible. Actions require judgment. And if you want good actions, well, that typically requires good judgment.
There's a lot there.
That was a lot there. Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's impossible not to judge. It's when I stop at the four-way stop and I'm looking both ways to see if there's any cars coming, and I make the decision to go ahead and go because the car I see coming is far enough away, I'm making a judgment call. Right? You know, when I flip my omelet, I make a judgment call on how long I let it sit on one side, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? But we get this, it's interesting to me, Roger, we've talked about this before to some degree, but it's interesting to me that people that quote Matthew 7, and we'll read it here in a minute, people that quote that when they say, don't judge me, Jesus said not to judge, and then they'll quote Matthew 7. They'll usually quote just the first sentence, do not judge, or you too will be judged. Then they stop right there. Most people that quote that, that's the only scripture verse they know. It's the only one they know, because it's the only one they spout, right? But once again, we sometimes take things out of context and we don't know what we're talking about is basically what's going on here. So let's unpack Matthew 7. He said, read Matthew 7. So let's read Matthew 7. This is New International Version. This is Matthew 7. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. Now I did some Greek dive on this, and he's not really saying do not judge, or you too will be judged. He's getting ready to tell you the method in which you're judging is what you need to be careful about. And in fact, he says in verse 2, for in the same way that you judge, which means that you're going to, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. So it's a warning, right, to be careful on how you make a judgment call when it comes to not traffic issues, but personal issues. And then he asks a question, Jesus does. He says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Roger, why do you think we do that? Let's answer that question. Why do you think we're focused on the other guy more than us?
Because we don't want to recognize, admit that we're at fault, or we're in a bad position, or we don't live by principles, or we're not doing our actions in love. I mean, there's a myriad of things. It's called deflecting. I want to deflect everything because I don't want anybody to know what's going on with inside me. So I want to look at and blame other people for it. It's the blame game.
Is it possible to judge somebody else's behavior, even though in a specific area, right? Because we'll talk about why I can make a judgment call and approach you in an area that I'm not having a problem in. But if I'm struggling, let's say smoking, for instance, if I'm struggling with quitting smoking and it's just I've given up, I thought, you know what, I'm never going to quit, so I'm just going to smoke. And I see you smoking, and you've been diagnosed with emphysema, and you're still smoking. And I say to you, dude, what are you doing, man? Are you nuts? Okay. So is it possible to approach the other guy with concern, genuine concern, even though I'm still struggling in that area? Can I still do that?
I think the answer is yes. I think it's all about how we say it and what our motive is, and are we trying to help the person get over something that could kill them?
Right.
I mean, Jesus was famous at making points, but doing it all in love. So I think you can make a judgment call and make suggestions to people in love because you want what's best for them. But that's based on living by principles and having integrity. And it's not a matter of I'm not guilty of whatever I'm talking to you about. I am guilty. I am just like you. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm simply saying that could kill you because I love you. I don't want you to die. I like you. I want you to be around for a while. And I'm sure your family does and your friends as well. So is that judgmental? I don't think so. I mean, the definition of judgmental has negative connotation.
It does, right?
Yeah. So, it's that say the truth in love, speak the truth in love.
Jesus goes on to say, how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when all the time there is a plank in your own? Makes sense, because the truth is, even if you're very concerned and you're not doing it because you're being judgmental, but you're doing it out of concern and you struggle in that area too, your credibility isn't going to be as strong as somebody that maybe doesn't struggle in that area or they've overcome it. Mm-hmm. And they approach the same person and say, look, I've overcome this addiction to tobacco. Are you interested in overcoming too? I may have some suggestions for you. That guy's going to have more credibility.
Sure.
Right, just naturally.
That's genuine concern for the well-being of the other person, as opposed to being critical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've learned over the years, especially in our recovery community, that when someone really upsets us, it strikes some chord deep in our spirit or our soul. I've come to realize that it's reminding me of who I used to be or something I'm struggling with now, and it makes me mad. But instead of pointing the finger and the speck in my brother's eye, what I'm realizing is that I am realizing I got work to do within me. And I share that with people because I've learned it the hard way. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a reflection in the mirror of you with something you struggled with in the past or you're struggling with currently, and you get emotional and upset at the other person when it's about you. I found that it happens a lot in our recovery
much of the
world.
Time. At the very least, when something that somebody's doing or behavior-wise or whatever, and it disturbs us, at the very least, it usually brings up something from our past that maybe we don't struggle anymore, but man, it's a reminder at the very least. Usually,
right. And
found.
then if you're going to go offer suggestions, you can approach them and say, man, I so related to what you said.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I'm you, and I relate to you. Let me tell you what I did. Maybe that would be helpful. So that's, in my opinion, not judgmental. That's offering experience, strength, and hope, and love, and truth.
Yeah, you're making a judgment call to go approach the person, but you're doing it without being judgmental.
Yeah.
And so it is possible to make a judgment call without being judgmental.
I think we do it all day long. We have to.
Sure. Jesus goes on to say, and he gets pretty snippy here, you hypocrite. That was pretty strong words back then.
Mm-hmm.
First, and that is the key word here, take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to do what? To remove the speck out of your brother's. So to that person that says, you're not supposed to judge, that Jesus said don't judge. No, he said if you're going to help somebody else with their issues in a specific area, you're probably going to do better with that if you make sure your side of the street is clean first.
Sounds like.
Now, does that mean I can't approach you about something that isn't part of my life? Sure, I can. But usually what I have found, and you're right, when something disturbs me to the point where I'm grumbling about the person or to the person, right, there's a piece of me that remembers when I struggled or that I am struggling. And if I can jump down your case, it takes the focus off me and I feel better for a minute.
Yeah, for maybe a minute.
Maybe a minute, right?
Yeah.
But if you got any scruples at all, what most people, particularly people that are living in steps 10, 11, and 12, what most of us will do is we'll go, oops, right? I need to make that right.
Step 10.
The way I spoke to you was not good. So yeah. And here's the other thing about saying that we're not supposed to judge. You know who judged all the time? Jesus.
Yeah.
And we're to be like Jesus.
Yeah.
Born again, Bible believing Christians are supposed to follow what Jesus does. And he made judgment calls all the time.
All the time.
He put people in their place, right? He was kind and compassionate, but sometimes he was very firm. You hypocrite, he says. I said, well, you're not Jesus, Monty, and he was God. So, he had more of a right. No, we are to be like him.
Yes, that's
the
what
problem is our flesh gets in the way, and then it wants, so we may have the gift of confrontation, of biblical Christ-like confrontation, but we also have the pollutant that comes with our flesh, right, Raj?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
That's
all about
what
checking our motives and what are we trying to accomplish and all those sort of things.
Yeah. Yeah. So Nick Freitas explained it very well, and we do live in a world that's the big defense, right? Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Or here's one I love. You do you.
Yeah.
When somebody tells me that, I just want to pinch their little cheek. You know what I mean? It's just like,
what does that even mean? It just means that there's no principles that we should live by, or everything is based on our own truth, and it's my truth. You do you.
So,
I'm doing my truth.
I have a relative, I'll put it that way, that told me about a movie or a series, a mini series, and said, you got to watch this, Monty. It is amazing. It's done so well. Blah 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 blah, and it sounded really good to me. So I started to watch it, and there was just an overuse of profanity in it, and so I stopped watching it. I just, I wouldn't let somebody stand in the middle of my living room and talk like that. Why would I let the TV do it? Right. And so I told him, he said, how'd you like it? And I go, I didn't finish watching it, man. It just a little bit. And can't you see past that? Nah, not really. Not really. It didn't, it kind of made me feel yucky. And I said, okay, well, whatever. You do you.
Was that the end of the conversation? What does that mean?
Yeah.
You do you. Tell
you
me.
do you.
Did we ever get to the point where he told you why he liked it so much? What was it that was appealing?
Oh yeah,
to
he
him?
liked it because it was, it was the kind of the sci-fi because he likes sci-fi, I like sci-fi, kind of shows, and he thought I would like it, and it was done really well, but it was just too much of the upward, man. Yeah. I can handle a couple, but gosh darn it, I mean, what was the movie with? Oh heck, I can't think of it now. Doggone it. Who's the guy that did Staying Alive? And he did John Travolta.
Oh,
John Travolta and the other black actor. I can't remember it now. Doggone it.
Samuel Jackson.
Anyway, yes. There was a movie with both of them.
Yeah.
And I thought I heard more profanity in a movie when I watched that than any movie I'd ever watched. And then I watched Casino.
Yes.
Two things in there. Incredible amount of profanity and Cadillacs. Everybody had a Cadillac. But I thought I had hit the mother lode as far as cuss words until I saw this other one that this relative of mine suggested I watch. And I was like, nah, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I just don't want to hear it. I hear it enough in real life. I don't need to hear it out of my box. But yeah, so he said, well, you
Pulp
do you.
Fiction, that was the movie.
Pulp Fiction, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, well, I guess I will do me. And me says I'm not going to watch it. But it was like he was making a judgmental, not a judgment call, but he was being very judgmental of me, thinking I was being too judgmental of him for offering to watch the show. You know what I mean? It was just weird.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't personal. You just didn't appreciate what I get it.
Yeah. I just didn't like it.
That's the old, if you don't agree with me, you can possibly be right.
I've also found that people who are narcissistic will get very defensive.
Yes.
If you suggest at all that they're being overly judgmental towards you. Narcissists believe they're always right.
Yeah.
And they're very gifted at bringing you into a conversation. And by the time you leave that conversation, you believe everything they've said. And you leave the office or the room or whatever, scratching your head, and a day later you're going, wait a minute. That's not even true. And if you try to talk to them about it, they just get really mad. You know. I worked for a guy like that. Jeez. He would call me in his office and he would point out areas that I needed to grow and change, and it wasn't the case at all. But by the time I left his office, man, I thought it was. I was convinced. Right?
Yeah.
And then later I'm like, no. But if you're a work environment, you want to keep your job, sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and go, yes, sir.
Right.
Oh, my goodness sake. So, do you have any examples of where you've had to make a judgment call where somebody interpreted it as you were being harsh and all you were doing was being loving and caring?
Well, I think it occurs a lot in our recovery community, especially in the point of being a sponsor or
yes,
a spiritual mentor, or it took me a long time to realize that I need to base everything in principles and truth and not my emotions. We like to talk about our thinking. So my thinking needs to be centered by my spirituality. So my connection with God and truth and love and those kinds of things need to operate in what I say and what I do. And I've been one of my best friends who's been a pastor for over 40 years. He used to tell me, before I speak, count to 10, because I was impetuous. I was ready to speak over you and about you and whatever without really considering what I was going to say. So it took me a while to do that. So I had to learn the hard way, because I frequently would open mouth, put foot in mouth, and then insert the other foot and wonder why what came out was not what my intentions were. And
yeah.
I've done that a lot. I mean, I'm just that guy, but it's not acceptable for me to be that guy anymore. I don't accept that in my personal behavior, because I'm called to being a different person, and I want to be that different person.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time when you're young in recovery and young in the
Yes.
Lord, and people ask you something, your opinions come out. And I like what Dick B said. I got rid of my opinions. I'm no longer editorialized. I'm a reporter of the truth. And so my truth is the Bible, the 12 steps, and the big book. And when my interaction with other people is based in that, I'm doing the right thing for the right reason at the right time. And when it's not, I'm being Roger, the old Roger.
Yeah.
And it's not acceptable today. So.
Oops. My books are falling over. There we go. Okay. So, reading from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous means that you brought it up. This is a piece that has saved my blessed assurance time and time and time and time again. It is actually, everybody's got their favorite piece, right? Everybody's got their favorite scripture verse. Everybody's got their favorite chapter in the big book, etc. This is mine in the big book. This starts at page 66 in third edition and goes over to page 67. This is in How It Works. And this is in relation to people that offend us. It says, this was our course. Okay, so right off the bat, Bill Wilson is saying, okay, this is the direction that we take. When what I'm about to explain to you takes place, this is the road we travel on. Not that road, this road. This was our course. We realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. So this is this is his first place where he's saying there may be something wrong that is beyond your opinion that they're just being a knucklehead. It may go deeper than that. So let's consider that before we react. It's as though we did not like their symptoms and the way they disturbed us. So right there, I thought about that long and hard. I don't like the symptoms you're displaying. Doesn't mean I don't like you, but the symptoms you're displaying right now, I don't like them, and I don't like the way I feel when they come out at me. I don't like that either, right? So we have to realize that. And here's the kicker: though we did not like their symptoms and the way they disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. All of a sudden, the playing field is level. It is level. That was a shocker for me, because I really, when it came to people that were being judgmental towards me, for the longest time, I wanted to retaliate. Because Roger, I had people in the rooms of the 12-steppers that called me Jesus freak and religious fanatic, and all because I wore a shirt that had a fish on it. I didn't even say anything. It was the weirdest thing, right? But my flesh wanted to cut off the Roman soldier's ear, so to speak. I wanted to defend myself and God. And by the way, listeners, God does not need you to defend him.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
And then it goes on to say, we ask God, okay, so that means we're going to pray. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience we cheerfully grant a sick friend. What? I got to do this cheerfully. But it says we ask God, right? Because we're not going to do it cheerfully on our own power, right? It's just going to, so we have to ask God for that. When a person offended, not if, but when, we said to ourselves, so this is the action we take, this is a sick man. So we go back to the beginning of the statement that he was saying, perhaps you're spiritually sick. Okay, this is a sick man. And this part hit me like a ton of bricks. How can I be helpful to him? Are you kidding me? This guy's coming at me with judgment and condemnation. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And you're asking me to help him? Yeah, that's what it says. And then it says, God saved me from being angry. Why? Because that statement that I just read is pissing me off. So I got to ask God, save me from being angry here, God. Please. And then it says, thy will be done. Okay, it's all about God's will, right? And we avoid retaliation and argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. This piece in the big book of AA has come up in my life a lot. And I reflect on it every time somebody brings their judgmental, bony little finger in my face. And I have to remember that they like myself, so I can be that bony little finger, right? Now, there are people right now, brother, that I know, I'm sure of it, that are saying, but Monty, sometimes on your show, you're pretty judgmental. Really? You're probably right. What do we say to that, Roger?
Well, again, I think the word judgmental at its core is negative and critical. And I think if you make an observation about something and it doesn't live up to the principles, God's principles, or the 12 steps of AA, there's a judgment call that can be made based on the observation of that doesn't line up with the truth that we live by. Yeah, I guess you call that judgmental, but in context, I don't think it's being negatively critical, if you will. The minute you say judgmental, it automatically takes on this negative connotation. And like you said before, we make judgment calls all day long. So is that being judgmental? Yeah. But it doesn't have to be negative. It's stating a fact that I'm not going to do X or Y because it doesn't match up with the principles I live by. Is that judgmental? Okay. So be it. What's your question? It's like, if you don't like the laws and you're judgmental about the laws, does that mean you can break them and be okay with it? No, it doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, and so when someone points the finger at you, and I dislike this immensely. I had a coach in high school play basketball. He used to grab me by my jersey and yank it and put the finger right in my sternum. Oh, it made me crazy.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to get over that because a couple times I yelled back at him and it wasn't a good thing. So, I have to learn the hard way. I have to learn by making multiple mistakes and not enjoying the pain inflicted by the mistakes I made. So I think this whole thing about, it's always interesting. Why am I so upset by what somebody said to me? And I really have to look within inside myself to go, Roger, what is going on with you? Why are you so upset? Because there's something that needs to be dug out there spiritually or inside my psyche that's stringing something that's making my emotions go A, B, C, or D. And I really have to look at that. Because if you use Christ as your model, what, after being beaten beyond human recognition, a spear in his side, crown of thorns on his head, nails through his wrists and feet, and he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I'm like, what?
Right.
Right? So I have to keep in context my thinking, and when I get emotional about something, it's like, what is going on, Roger? And close mouth before inserting foot. Because if I automatically respond in emotion with no principles, no love, I'm going to 95% of the time be incorrect. I'm going to be wrong. And I'm going to have to do a step 10 immediately.
Yeah, right. So sometimes I take a little bit of an issue with that statement in the big book about, if you see something in somebody else, it means there's something wrong with you. Basically, if what somebody does disturbs you, it's something with you. And I do agree. Much of the time, am I going to say most of the time? Maybe, I'm not sure, but definitely much of the time, you're right. There's something that's triggering inside of me. There's something going on, right? Especially if I'm really thinking about responding to you in a way that is cruel or unkind or, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between I'll show you and, dude, when you said that, that really hurt.
Yeah.
Total difference.
Big difference. Yeah.
Big difference. But I think sometimes, and maybe this is that 5%, maybe sometimes when something disturbs us, it's because we have a sense of justice. Give you an example. I get very disturbed when I see those SPCA commercials.
Oh, yeah.
On television, and by the way, they're very long. I mean, they go. Most commercials are 30 seconds or 60 seconds. Media is usually very, very picky about that. Sometimes 15 seconds. These things are like 2 minutes. And for a commercial of showing you pictures of these poor animals that are suffering terribly, it's not just hard to watch. It disturbs me. And one of the reasons it disturbs me is I know a little bit about the SPCA, and they are not above reproach. Let me just say that. The money that they bring in does not go to the animal shelters the way they advertise that it does. And so that irritates me. And I think it irritates me because I have a sense of justice. I can't watch those. I turn it. I can't watch it.
I turn it immediately. I won't do it.
It breaks my heart. I can't do it. So I have a friend, Jan, who she's been a lifelong friend of my wife's, who's the head of a missions program in the Dominican Republic, and she runs an orphanage there, and she's the dean of students or whatever. And where she lives and where she works, animals, they're not looked on as pets, right? The dog or the cat that's on the street, they're looked on as pests. And because she works in an area where she is dealing with starving children, you could take some of the pictures and replace the animals on those SPCA things with people, with children, and they would be accurate. And so she gets angry whenever she hears people asking for money to save animals. Why aren't you saving people? She gets really indignant about it. And her and I got into a little disagreement over it. And I said, well, animals can't defend themselves. Even a child can defend himself more than an animal can. So that's one of the reasons.
Not the unborn, though.
Not the unborn, no. But I get it. I get it because she lives in an area where she sees the devastation going on with these poor children, right? So anyway, I think she's disturbed because she has a sense of justice. I think I'm disturbed because I have a sense of justice. Now, if I'm going down to the office of the SPCA and I'm throwing a brick through their window because it disturbs me, now it's turned on me. I've got issues. So I wonder if something that disturbs us because we have a sense of justice, I wonder if the thing we should be asking ourselves is, what can I do to be part of the solution?
Yeah. So I have to tell you a funny story about the SPCA.
Yeah.
I went somewhere in an outdoor mall to do something. I don't remember what I was shopping for, but there were folks from the SPCA promoting the SPCA and asking for donations. And I had walked by the first time and said, no, I'm not interested. And the next time I came back, this young lady was very persistent, and she did a good job at presenting her case. And so I said, sure. And I made a $25 donation, and it became a monthly donation. What's interesting is I haven't really tried hard, and I'm happy to send it, really, but I can't get out of that donation, it seems like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, what I have to do is probably call them and call the credit, whatever. It's not a big deal, but I just flashed back to the fact that I was pitched, and she closed me. And so when I see those commercials, I get pissed off at myself because I'm supporting them, and I haven't gotten out of it. On the other hand, I'm like, okay, so I send them $25 a month. I hope they use it well. It's the same thing when a homeless person comes up to me or somebody else, whatever it is. I'm like, you know what? If the Spirit leads,
there it is.
If the Spirit leads me, I'm going to freely and quickly, because if I think about it, I'm going to talk myself out of it.
Right.
If the Spirit leads me, I'm going to do it on the spot, and I'm going to walk away and forget about it because I did it for the right motivation and for the right reason.
Amen.
And I didn't used to do that. I would talk myself out of it. I would get judgmental about whoever it was in front of me. I don't do it anymore because it's like if the Spirit tells me to do it, I do it. And what God does with the action after that is in God's hands, and it's none of my business. And
yes, amen to that.
I am so free from who I used to be in that respect. And so it's kind of the same thing. It's like it's not the end of my day because I give $25 a month to the SPCA. But the commercials make me nuts. They make me nuts.
I know. So we're almost out of time. We got a closing song and a closing thought that I want to share. But it's funny. So one time, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I saw a homeless guy on the corner with his sign and everything, right?
Yeah.
And I got that nudge from the Holy Spirit. I want you to give him some money, and I had like $20 in my pocket or something like that, and it was like the Lord was saying, that's not enough. Okay, so I went to the bank and I got $100 out. I just did, and I'm thinking to myself, have I lost my mind? Right? But I got it out. I got it out in 20s. And I thought, I'm going to have fun with this. So I went and I pulled up and I talked to him, and he was great. He was just great. And very polite and everything. And I said, okay, so you look like you can use a few bucks. Yes, sir. I said, okay, so we're going to play a little trivia game. So I asked him some Bible questions, right? Who was the captain on the ark? He goes, oh, Noah. Okay, here's $20. I said, who was the first human being ever made? Really simple questions, right? That even the heathens know. He goes, well, Adam. I go, hey, there's $20. And as I was going, I had this expectation of how he should respond, and he didn't respond that way. And I ended up giving him $100, and he just looks at me and he goes, oh, cool. All right, bye, dude. I mean, he didn't go, wow, are you kidding me? No one's ever done this. And I'm thinking, why didn't I get that? Why didn't I get? Well, because that isn't why God asked me to do it. He asked me to do it for him, not for me. But I made it all about me.
Well, that's our nature. I mean, I'm just the same way. I want to be applauded and canonized and got a crown on my head and put the robe on me. Come on. Where's my throne? Where's my throne?
Why isn't this guy going, am I on candid camera? Dude, you're just so blessed. Oh, I love you, bro. I mean, I didn't get any of that. And it was like his dog showed more emotion than he did. Oh,
that's a great story. That's a great. I mean,
oh my gosh.
I'm so you. You be you, Monty. You be you.
You be you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Our closing song this week is by Michael Purrington and the Messengers. It's called Sick People Getting Well. And we'll play this, and I'll come back with a very quick closing thought. Here is Mr. Purrington.
Platitudes and attitudes, a lot of talk about gratitude, making rules about spiritual tools. please. A word or two about quitting booze. Together we disagree. Am I my problem, or is it these dry phonetics on a mission, wielding cliches and traditions? Feels like I'm recovering in hell. Sick people, sick people, sick people getting well. Dirty looks and self-help books and drunks who did whatever it took to stay so they could lord it over. Newcomers getting sober, druggers, muggers, tree huggers, gin sippers, beer chuggers, hippies, hicks, and uptown chicks who would not ordinarily mix. Who's new and who's got time, it's hard to tell. Sick people, sick people, sick people getting well. Zealotry, senility, a road of happy destiny. Masochists and analysts, I wouldn't miss a minute of this. A lot of preaching, a lot of praying, a lot of wise and worn out sayings. I didn't take a drink today, I guess it all works anyway. By now we should all be dead or in jail. Sick people, sick people, sick people getting well. Sick people, sick people, sick people getting well.
Mr. Michael Purrington and his band, The Messengers. Well, according to Dr. Charles Barkley from Psychology Today, judgment is a necessary part of thought. Think about that for a minute. A woman judges that she would enjoy the shrimp more than the chicken. A child judges that it would be better to do her homework than be punished for not turning it in. A musician with an alcohol use disorder judges that it's too great a risk to drink that shot of whiskey a fan offers on his break. Technically, it is judgmental to declare that being judgmental is bad. I know, of course, what sort of judgments the word judgmental condemns. They come from people who advance opinions as if they were handed down from God. People who constantly find fault and seem to relish doing so. People who feel their own ideas and behaviors are always right, while other people wallow in foolishness and malfeasance. It's worth noting, though, that the judgments we call judgmental are more likely to be those we don't agree with than those that we do. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man, along with Roger McDermott and the rest of the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
Don't let the weights of the past keep you down. There's a melody here to turn it around. In each story and song you'll find a friend, a chorus of courage that'll never end.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
kitty.
This has been a Chicken and a Pig production.